Hi, and welcome to my SPED 443 Practicum page. This is my homepage, and basically just says what class it is, serving students with learning disabilities. And we had to do a practicum for this class, and following will be all of my documents. So first off is the IEP, and that basically just talks about what services the student is receiving. I chose to do a kindergarten student, so some of the kindergarten goals and what he needs and what services he receives right now, which is special education services, and he also receives speech services as well. So now I come down here, and my cooperating teacher and I talked and conversated a lot about what goals we should really focus on for this individual student. And we were talking, and I mentioned how sounding out consonant vowel consonant words or CVC words were kind of challenging, and being able to pick that middle sound, the vowel sound, is what he needs some work in to build his skill, and as well as learning the sight words. I think we can improve on that. It's very hard for him, but I think with the extra practice he'll be able to do it. So now we're going to go here to the pre-assessment. In my pre-assessment, I used a sight word test. I basically just did how many words a student can get right in 4 minutes. So I have a table provided here, and he received 20 out of 40 sight words within those 4 minutes correct. So in this table you can see which ones he got wrong, and those are the highlighted ones. So that kind of showed me what words he knows and what words he doesn't know, and some tips on, does he know 3-letter words better than 4-letter words, or how does that come into play. And then if we scroll down here a little bit more, I did test middle sounds, and how many middle sounds can the student correctly identify once I say the word. So I'll say the word rat, and he'll have to tell me what that middle sound is. So ah, and he got 11 out of 20, which is okay, but most of the students in his grade level know 20 out of 20 or very close. And then in parentheses are the sounds he said instead of the actual sounds in the word. So that's my pre-assessment, which confirmed my goals, and that was to work with CVC or consonant vowel consonant middle sounds and words, as well as sight words. So now we're going to come down here, and I made a page with all of my graphs. So I graphed out the beginning. So this is the beginning graph of the pre-assessment, and it shows sight words, there's 40, and out of those 40 he knew 20. We come over here to middle sounds, we had 20 words, and I asked him to tell me 20 middle sounds, and he got about 11. So this is the pre-assessment graph right here. Come down here, I tested at midpoint, so about after lesson 3 I tested him again. And so 40 words again. He still only knew 20 sight words, but we are starting to acknowledge the different sight words and trying to sound them out a little bit better than we were before. So we're making progress, even though numbers don't show that. Middle sounds, out of the 20 we had, he knew about 11 still. So not much progress, but I could still see that he was working really hard, and that he was making more progress than he was before by just trying to sound out letters, giving me a middle sound even before he wouldn't give me a sound at all. And then we come down here to the post assessment. So out of the 40 sight words, he knew 36 out of 40, which is awesome, knowing that he started at only 20 words. And over here, the middle sounds, the 20 we started with, he knew about 17 of them, which is awesome. And it really showed that what we were doing and giving him that extra little bit of push really helped him accelerate in those areas. So those are my assessment graphs. I also graphed each lesson out individually. So lesson 1, this is my lesson plan, and I briefly just talked about how we're strictly just going to work on identification of sight words. So this is the first lesson I had with him, and we're just really working on sight words and how we can do that. So um, I asked him to identify a letter and a letter sound. So I gave him the letter B, and I wanted him to tell me what that letter sound was. And then we'd write it on the board, and I'd ask him to tell me that letter again, just as kind of a warm up to see, okay, I know this, I know what we're doing. So then I spread the sight words out on the floor and asked him if he knew any of the words that were on the floor. And he picked up a couple of them and he set them to the side, and then he told me he didn't know the rest of them. So he got his 3, I think he even got 6 sight words on the floor that he knew. So then we picked them all up and we started working on them. And I kind of mixed in the ones he didn't know with the ones he knew, just to make him get that extra confidence builder. So on the pre-assessment, like I said before, he knew 20 out of 40, and that's what he ended with 2 in this lesson. But we were making progress, even though the numbers don't show it. And then to end the lesson, I kind of just asked him what we learned, and if there was a word he could remember of one of the sight words. And then he told me he remembered the word I. So that's a start for that one. So that was our first lesson. And then we come down here and lesson 2. So here's lesson 2. And in this one we worked on mainly CVC words and how can we depict which words are which. So we come down here to the content and we worked on a middle sound page. So with this, I have it in my artifacts for lesson 2, but I'll kind of just show you. It gave the middle sound of the word blank. So then we showed him some pictures. There's a picture on the worksheet and it kind of said, okay, this is what the word is. Can you identify it for me? So we kind of worked on that or whatever, and then we wrote it on the board, and I had him pick out 4 different cards out of the pile I had. And then we spelled those out with our letter cube. So one of the words was bed. So we had to find the B, find the E, find the D, and I was just we did a little bit together, but I just wanted to really see if he could get those letters together, and he did. So then at the end, we read a book called Matt and Cat, which were basically working on sight words and sounding out letter words. So kind of the same thing we've done today. And then I asked him at the end what we learned and kind of that. So that was lesson 2. Now if we go to lesson 3, we worked on sight words again. We did some different activities with sight words. So I set out 10 of them on the floor, and we rolled the little dice, and then however many numbers that was on the dice is how many times we had to say that word. So if the dice landed on 4 and it landed on the word said, he would have to say said 4 different times. So working on that repetition and understanding what word goes to which. And then I replaced the sight words on the page a couple different times just to show that there are different words. We did that until we had about 5 minutes left, and then we picked them all up, and then I told him to pick out 2 of the words that he learned today and tell me the words. So I think he picked out what and was, and those 2 words he had to tell me which one was which and how he knew that. So just getting that familiarization with that. So now we're going to lesson 4. And this lesson is talking about combining CVC words and sight word cards. So we did the word Zingo. It's a game. It kind of shows you in my artifacts what the game looks like, and they give us board cards, and then like the middle sound is blank or the ending sound is blank, and the student has to pick the right letter, which makes the word the word. And we did that for a while, and it really, really taught him that what clicks, what makes a word a word, and how um, if a letter doesn't make sense, then it's not a word. So I really learned after this that games were a good way for him. So in lesson 5, we also played a little game. And in that game, we really worked on just reviewing our sight words. We placed them around the room, and then the ones we got correct, we placed around the room. And then I gave him some sounds, and I wanted him to identify the middle sounds. Um, I gave him some of the cards again, and we worked on that again. And then we went to the whiteboard, and we practiced writing them on the whiteboard. So if I said bed, give me the middle letter. He gave me E. He got a lot better at this as we went on. And then to end it, I wanted to play a fun little game, and it was on the iPad. It's called Letter Builder, and it just gives them like 3-letter words, and they have to pick the missing letter and see if it makes a word. Majority of them are sight words, so that also helps. And then my post assessment. What I learned in my post assessment is that we made awesome progress. We got 36 out of 40 of our sight words correct. There are still 4 that we didn't, which are highlighted. And then we come down here and we got 17 out of 20 of our middle sounds, which is awesome. And the ones we still got wrong are the ones highlighted. And then these are just what he said instead of the actual one in the middle. So looking at that made me feel really good that we made some super, super progress at the end of our unit. So now this just gives a summary of what I've learned. And I really learned that differentiated instruction makes a great impact in these children's lives. I know that when I first started, I was very lenient about playing games and letting him kind of relax at the end of his time. But when it got to about lesson 3, I really, really learned that incorporating games worked very well with him because he was able to move around and have that interaction, but it also gave him that learning environment which he needed. So I think that that's the biggest thing I've taken away from this is just how to differentiate instruction for him. It basically just took time for us to take him out of the classroom and incorporate our learning into games and show him that learning can be fun, so it motivated him to learn. And this is our end post assessment. So it shows that he knew 36 out of 40 sight words and 17 out of 20 middle sounds. And I am very happy with his progress, as well as his mother um, told me she is very, very proud. She couldn't stop smiling when I told her how much um, growth he has made just over these couple short lessons. So that is my practicum experience. If you have any questions, please let me know. All of my artifacts and lessons are in here, as well as my summary of experience and all of my assessments. So thanks for watching.